Yes! Never in a million years did I think I would speak these words and be telling the truth. There is going to be a live-action My Little Pony movie. What the fuck? This week I was supposed to be talking about Superman, but this news was just too important to say nothing. So an article by Variety confirms that a live-action My Little Pony movie with MGM Studios and Amazon is going into production, and I cannot even fathom those series of words. It's no secret that Hasbro loves adapting their familiar properties into live-action films, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Dungeons & Dragons being the most frequent examples. But it seemed like My Little Pony always steered clear of this trend, mainly because how would you even adapt My Little Pony into live action? Well, short answer, you don't.
Of course you don't. The Hollywood slot machine has done this to countless IPs, and it's always the exact same story. IP goes to New York!
Okay, from my perspective, this isn't really a fair assessment. When it comes to art, I believe there is no such thing as a bad idea, only bad execution. And I, strangely enough, have higher hopes for this film being made now than if it was in production 5 to 10 years ago. Barbie raised the bar for toy IPs to be made into films, and after the disastrous failure of Generation 5, Hasbro might want to pull out all the stops for this film. First, I generally believe that this isn't going to affect whatever the next generation of My Little Pony is. I don't think it's going to be synergized, much like how Transformer cartoons are still independent from the movies. I'm sure this is just one adaptation and will completely be on its own. I doubt Hasbro would try to double down on the Generation 5 strategy. I do find it curious how this is not a Paramount film, which produced the other live-action Hasbro movies, so it's unlikely we're going to be getting some big Hasbro cinematic universe. But it's not like big studios haven't collaborated before, and with Paramount Plus's dwindling relevance, its collaboration with Amazon could just be a way to get a stable platform for My Little Pony.
Get it?
Anyway, the question still remains, how do you even make a film like this? I think a key source of inspiration from Hasbro and Amazon might have been the success of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and how they were able to have cartoony characters in a live-action setting, and letting them be cartoony in full confidence. I don't think we're going to be getting gross, ultra-realistic, unemotive horses. We are still going to get something cute and pastel to match the aesthetic of the franchise. Obviously, with a film of this caliber, one would expect the annoying trope of the cartoon characters mingling with a human being. However, for My Little Pony, this isn't unprecedented. From the very start, ponies have been teaming up with humans, so if they were going to do this trope, it's likely they might bring back the Generation 1 character Megan Williams. I can imagine this film would meet somewhere in the middle with the generation that is most easily adaptable into a live-action film, G1, with the more popular G4, in terms of what the roster of ponies would look like and the basic lore of Equestria. But if I were to hazard a guess, they might want to make this movie as toyetic as possible, and they might take cues from the once extremely popular Equestria Girls series. That's right, I think there's a strong chance we're going to be seeing humanized versions of the MLP cast, as well as ponified versions of the human cast, as we travel back and forth from the human world to Equestria. For some reason, my predictions feel alarmingly familiar. But I promise I'm not just reheating my own nachos and calling it a day. There is legit practical reasons as to why they might go in this direction. You cannot just have one pony to run around in the human world and call it a day. It just wouldn't work. In every My Little Pony generation ever, it's always been an ensemble cast, much like Transformers. But you also just can't have half a dozen semi-realistic CGI horses on screen at once, because that shit is expensive. And I doubt this movie is going to be making Bayformers money. So going back and forth between an animated world of only ponies and a live-action world of only humans might be the cheapest and dirtiest way to make a quote-unquote live-action My Little Pony movie. I know I said this would probably remain separate from Generation 6, but you could still hypothetically tie it in if you take this half-and-half presentation. It wouldn't break the immersion of the world or need to conform with whatever the movie does. It just so happens that the events of Generation 6 collide with this movie. Basically, what Equestria Girls did. But assuming they go in the most traditional Hollywood route and have one live-action CGI pony in the normal human world, I'm kinda curious on what one character they'd distill all of My Little Pony into. It could be Twilight, the main protagonist of the most popular generation. It could be Rainbow Dash, who is basically the fan favorite of Friendship is Magic. It could be Pinkie Pie, a character with probably the strongest marketability potential due to her more comedic persona. Or it could even be Applejack, who is really close to the series' roots. But if I were to put my money on any pony, it would either be down to Firefly or Rainbow Dash. Firefly was the first pony to meet Megan Williams, and thus the character that would make the most logical sense if you were doing a loose adaptation of Generation 1. But Rainbow Dash, a character who was based on Firefly, would probably win over the production because of popularity alone. Retelling Rescue at Midnight Castle but with more popular G4 characters is probably the most easy setup for a generic Hollywood adaptation of a beloved cartoon IP, but this time it would actually work as it's what the whole series was built around. But let's face it, the idea of a live-action My Little Pony movie was likely concocted by two Hollywood executives and a line chart. So don't be surprised when the trailer or film is set to Old Town Road and a pony is voiced by fucking Aquafina or somebody. God, can you imagine what a worst possible scenario might be? It might not even be a combined adaptation of multiple generations. It could just purely ride off of the G4 nostalgia and have the corresponding human protagonist be representative of a brony or something. MOP has still not escaped the connotations from the brony fandom of yesteryear. There has got to be some reference to it, right? If not the central plot of the movie. There is a decent chance this might end up being a big budget version of My Little Dashie, and that terrifies me.
Oh, no! No! Or you could make it like the Lego movie, where they are the toys, and they are inanimate objects. However, when it zooms in, they live in their fantasy world. Maybe if you want to be nostalgic, you could have each of their respective animation styles properly represented within the movie, but let there be a human character that, when that human character is there, it zooms out and the ponies go back to being the very toys that they originated from.
That's true, a meta-narrative could be fun and risky, but I've been trying to take this from a sincere approach because I think a lot of fans of My Little Pony have been tired of irony or meta-narratives, as the latter half of Friendship is Magic was chock full of them. And that's why I think we need a good director that will be able to bring My Little Pony back to a place of sincerity.
Reminders that they are in fact old enough to be
I'm going to go over some directors that I think would be best for this film. First and most obviously is Lauren Faust, the creator of Friendship is Magic. She could return the franchise back to that sense of childlike whimsy that inspired her interpretation. Next is James Gunn, who has this huge soft spot for the connection between animals and people, and has effortlessly adapted the world of other cartoon IPs into live action like Scooby-Doo. Domi Shi has been able to tap into the nostalgia from younger generations to build up the aesthetics of films like Turning Red. And if she gets invested into the culture surrounding My Little Pony, she could embody why people love this series so much. Rob Letterman has had a really promising career with pretty good family films like Goosebumps and Detective Pikachu. Mark Forrester has been able to adapt children's stories like Winnie the Pooh with a level of respect and maturity in films like Christopher Robin. Finally, there's Spike Jonze, whose incredible work on Where the Wild Things Are was able to reach into your very soul and pull out emotions from your childhood that you have not felt in years, while transporting you into an otherworldly place. I think any of these directors would do a great job. If you want to win awards, go with Spike Jonze. If you want to make a lot of money, go with Rob Letterman. And if you want to bring in fans, then get Lauren Faust. As I type this script, I feel like the old woman in Requiem for a Dream when she goes crazy from her meds. Out of everything Hasbro could announce, this was the last thing I was expecting, and the last thing I think this franchise would ever do, now especially. Whatever it is, it sure as hell won't be uninteresting. I feel like I'm going to explode talking about this any longer, and I just need to know what you guys think. What do you think about a My Little Pony live action movie? Are you optimistic? Are you worried? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to read them. Anyway, that is all the time I have for today. Thank you for watching. I've been May, and
It's starting!
Already? Shit, I don't want to go.
I'm becoming realistic! Hey, this isn't as painful as I thought it'd be.
Yeah, kind of. Anyway, as I was saying, I've been Real World Horse May, and I'll see you next time.